The wind clawed at the dunes, unearthing fragments of a city that refused to stay buried. Dr. Amara Ndoye knelt, brushing sand from a stone etched with spirals sharper than blades. Her fingers trembled, not from the Sahel's heat, but from the silence. No crickets, no rustling leaves, just the hollow groan of ancient stones. "This isn't archaeology," muttered Dr. Eric Van Holt, his Belgian accent slicing the air. "It's a graveyard." He pointed to the central structure, a ziggurat blacker than midnight, its edges warped as if melted. At its base gaped a well, its mouth ringed by teeth-like stones. Kofi, their guide, hung back. His flashlight trembled. "The Niami sleep here," he said. "They drink dreams and scream with the voices of the dead." Amara scoffed. "Superstitions won't publish our paper, Kofi." But as shadows lengthened, even her logic frayed. The well exhaled a cold that clung to bones, and the sand around it bore no footprints, except their own. That night, the screams began. Van Holt's tent lay in ruins. Inside, the walls were clawed raw, and the air reeked of burnt hair. Amara found him by the well, knees dug into the sand, fingers bloody from scratching his arms. "They're inside me," he rasped. "The shadows. They're hungry." Kofi whispered a prayer. Amara ignored him, focusing on Van Holt's journal. Pages were filled with frantic sketches, faceless figures, spirals that pulsed like veins, and a single phrase, repeated until the ink bled. "They feast on what you hide." By dawn, Van Holt was gone. Amara descended into the well at noon, when the sun should have been fiercest. But 20 meters down, winter gripped her. The rope chafed her palms, and her flashlight dimmed, as if the darkness resisted it. Then, the whispers began. "Liar. Coward. Murderer." They came from the walls. No, from the shadows between the stones. Amara froze as a stain spread across the rock, a face with hollow eyes and a mouth unhinged, wider than any human jaw. It mimicked her breath, her blinking, then smiled. "Kofi! Pull me up!" she screamed. But the rope snapped. She fell. The impact knocked her breath away. Water soaked her clothes, thick, briny, alive with something that slithered against her skin. Her flashlight flickered, revealing walls crawling with shadows that dripped like tar. "We taste your fear, Amara." The voice was hers, yet not. A shadow peeled from the wall, taking her shape, but its eyes were voids, and its mouth stretched ear to ear. "What are you?" Amara demanded, backing away. "Memory," it hissed. "The rot you bury, the grief you drown. We are that rot." Above, Kofi's voice echoed. "Don't listen! They twist truth into poison." The shadow lunged. Amara woke in her tent, drenched in sweat. Kofi crouched beside her, applying a poultice of bitter herbs. "The Niami marked you," he said. "They'll hunt you now, in dreams." "Explain, now," she growled. He revealed the truth. Centuries ago, shamans lured the Niami, parasites of the mind, into the well. They fed them nightmares to keep them docile. But modernity's noise woke them. "Your science," Kofi spat, "is their symphony. Every lie, every secret, you fuel them." Amara laughed, but it died in her throat. Her notebook lay open, filled with writing not hers. Mother's last words. Why weren't you there? That night, the shadows came. They oozed from the well, formless until they neared a light. Then they took shapes: a child with no eyes, a woman with a stitched mouth, a man melting into sand. Van Holt returned too. His body was a puppet of shadows, mouth sewn shut with black thread. He thrust a rusted knife into Amara's hand and rasped, "Cut your heart out, or they'll take worse." Kofi dragged her away. "The well's water, it's the only way." In the well's belly, Amara faced the shadow self. "Offer your pain," it crooned. Let us devour it, and you'll be free. She drank the brackish water. Memories surged. Her mother's funeral, her father's abandonment, the baby she'd miscarried and never mourned. The shadows writhed, feasting. For a moment, there was peace. Then laughter. Fool, the Niami hissed. You didn't feed us. You opened us. The well collapsed. Amara crawled free, but the desert shivered.